On this episode of AV Week, AVIXA releases the winners of their Experience Awards, the state of interactive displays, and how AV can help customers stay safe post-COVID-19. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 460, recorded Friday, June 12th, 2020. Layers.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by FSR and by it.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us, discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. First and foremost, YT Lang from A10. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey, Tim. It's nice to come back.
Absolutely. We were recording this on Friday. If this was a normal year, my happy butt would be on a plane sometime in about 12 hours from now, but to get to InfoComm, but it's not. We will have a conversation about InfoComm Connected and InfoComm 2020 in a few minutes. But also who would be hanging out with me next week is my buddy, Mr. Luke Jordan from Electroacoustics. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. We would be enjoying an AV Roki on this next Tuesday, but again, alas, that is not today. Actually, next Tuesday, they're doing AVIXA is doing a trivia contest. So instead of AV Roki, you can join in and show everybody how smart you are, or in my case, how not smart you are. So you can sign up for that at the InfoComm Connected website. Also with us, a young man who hasn't been on this program in quite a while, Mr. Frank West from QSC. Welcome, sir.
Great to be back. Good to see everybody.
Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. And last but not least, Mr. Michael Bredwell from Sonance. Welcome, sir.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So a couple things. Our first story that we're tackling here is two different stories. I read these this week, and it was like dueling banjos going off in my head. First and foremost, AV Magazine wrote a piece talking about a survey that was conducted by Ultraleap in the EU, highlighting a loss of confidence in touchscreens due to COVID-19. Then you flip over to Sound and Communications in an article from our buddy Manolo Almagro, looking at the increase of technology and adoption of immersive display technologies with digital signage, wayfinding, point-of-sale systems, all of that. So this leads to two different looks at the touchscreen market. I'm going to start with you, Luke, when it comes to this. Where do we see touchscreens landing in the next 6 to 9 months with COVID-19 as we come out of it, as retail folks are coming back and looking at what COVID-19 and what their systems look like post COVID-19, but also places like hospitals as well as schools and offices where a touchscreen was almost the pinnacle of control system?
I think it's going to differ by the needs of each of those markets. I think healthcare, last time I was on with you, we actually talked about sensors that just needed your eyes so that you could wear a mask and everything's contactless. So I think healthcare is going to take this very seriously because it has different consequences. At the same time, I think that a lot of offices that have standardized on certain solutions, they're going to either change everything, which is extremely expensive, or they're going to just stick with what they've got and maybe change their protocols for how you interact with the office space. It might be that you need to wear gloves, but that'll still work. Nitrile gloves will still work with a touch screen. It might be that everything gets wiped down at the end of the day. Our office policy at 4:45 every day, everyone grabs a rag and we disinfect keyboards, doorknobs, anything like that, so that every day we're walking into a sanitized environment. So I think that the markets are going to each respond differently according to their needs.
Very good. And that's actually not a bad idea. It's something that that we've talked about here. We haven't put it into place yet because right now it's still just Mitchell and me. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't. It's one of those things that we're considering. Mr. Bridwell, we'll start with you on this next question, though. How do you educate dealers to overcome health and medical concerns about specific devices without being dismissive of the concerns of those clients?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Because, you have to take your manufacturing hat off a little bit and just be a human being. My wife is a cardiothoracic nurse at Emory Hospital here in Atlanta, and they all share, on 4B, when you really don't ever want to end up on her floor, by the way. You never want to see my wife at work. You're having a significant thing occur with you. But they share, between 4 nurses, they typically share one computer where they have to chart everything. And they have to have that thing ripped out and completely reconfigured and recreated. And that is a perfect example of where an integrator, working with a manufacturer with a solution that, say, rejects germs, but is also a handheld in some way, because there's not going to be like an AR, VR solution for that, right? There's still a nurse walking into a patient's room. There's going to be direct exposure and direct interaction, and then an action that follows from that. So I think it's learning the actual steps of somebody's actual job, and then working backwards from that to try to say, okay, if there's 8 touches for a nurse to do her job with a patient in their room when they go in there for 10 minutes, how can we get rid of 3 of those? Okay, how can we get rid of the next 2? You're not going to be able to solve all the interaction issues in a typical person's job work environment like that. So yeah, I think unwinding it as an onion, layer by layer.
Layers.
That's how you attack it, and try to negate 1 or 2 first and foremost.
All right. YT, same kind of question though, and although Mike brings up actually a really good point about seeing what sorts of technology we can leverage and seeing how many of those touches we can eliminate, while at the same time evolving this technology that has become almost like second nature to us.
Right. And by the way, I think these 2 articles are like great articles, and it actually remind me of a movie, Tom Cruise Minority Report. Yep. I don't know if you're right. I mean, I was so excited when I saw the movie. Tom Cruise was doing all the gesture control. But then if we comes back to the gas control, actually one thing that I've been thinking is the ecosystem. And actually, Tim, you brought up earlier about control system. Like nowadays, is a manufacturer's app talks to their own control box, and the control box will talk to other devices through like IR232 Relay IO. But when it comes to gas gesture control, I'm thinking about is actually the API integration. Like one manufacturer won't be able to do all this, but what's most important is how we can put our solution together in one ecosystem. So for example, like I believe the gesture control solution provider will have some kind of open APIs. And for vendors like us, we have control box, and then that's how we integrate with their functions in order to bring a more complete solution to not only to the end user, but also to the system integrator, because the system integrators are the one need to figure out also how do I put all these things together. I want to say, I like how technologies are evolving, and I think that's the really exciting part. And I'm seeing in a good way where, kind of because what's happening nowadays push us to move forward a little bit faster than we were planning, but that's a good thing. So I'm looking at a good opportunity for all the solution providers to work together in this ecosystem.
All right. Frank, YT brings up a really good point, and QSC does have a control system that does kind of integrate with other manufacturers. So how do you work with those manufacturers and then take that to your dealers and then their clients and say, look, here's an entire system that we can start leveraging to make you safer?
We heard this concern, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, sitting on different consultant webinars and talking to, corporate real estate people and even AV integrators. and end users. And we actually just developed a solution for this today, which is kind of what we're marketing here and there. But we're calling it Bring Your Own Control. So basically the ability to either have just a QR code in a room that somebody could scan with their phone, or even display the QR code on the room display or the touch panel. And then that gives you the ability to just use this device that everybody else has in their pocket and either open up our app, which is an iOS device, which would be an exact replica of the touch panel, or even just tag a web page. So that way it's device agnostic, basically. And give how long this trend of like, I don't want to touch that continues is anybody's best guess, but it's an immediate reaction to the people that are using QSys Control today, that they can have a touchless environment, or at least a bring your own control environment.
Yeah. Real quickly about the exact replica of the touch panel there. Is that, I guess the best way to ask this is, how much more work is that from the integrator standpoint? Are they creating a brand new brand new GUI, or is it something that you guys just kind of take their existing
in the settings of QSys, you can choose what device you want to map your UCI to. So there might be some slight editing. I think Luke's giving me a plug here.
I am actually, because I love you, Frank. I've got QSys Control in my conference room, and I can literally just select the conference room control page from my phone, and what's on my touch screen immediately pulls up on my phone. It's a free app, and I don't have to make an iPad version, an iPhone version, a QSC wired touch panel version. It is pretty fantastic. So free plug for Frank.
Thanks a bunch. It really, for us, by doing it with QR codes, is that we make it so that the end user doesn't have to be an AV genius. All they have to do is scan a QR code and they magically have a control surface.
And the tie-in to COVID and how this is actually becoming more popular outside of even just control systems. I went to a bar restaurant a couple weeks ago, and instead of handing out menus, you scanned a QR code on your way in, and it pulled up the menu on your phone, and then you could just tell the waiter what you wanted to order, but there was no exchange. Instead of having to wipe down menus every night, or you throw the menu away, it's just a QR code done. In a lot of ways, I see that it's almost better for me, instead of having this big menu that I'm trying to make room for on the table. So I think there's a lot of different uses for everyone has a device like this. And can I pull up information, menus, control systems, whatever? I think there's a lot of room for that.
Thanks so much for watching the first segment of AV Week. To check out the rest of the show for free, click on the link below or go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.